let us continue. Can you go on YouTube and yes, you can. It's on KosherTube, but KosherTube is linked to YouTube. So if you were to go on YouTube and you were to do, let's say, DAF YOMI BAYT, yeah, you would be able to get it. Okay, what we were learning about yesterday was a couple of stories about rabbis who went to various small communities and they observed questionable practices. And that's how we got, and the reason we got onto that subject is because we were talking about the status of wine that is diluted by an akum. In other words, the akum never comes in physical contact with the wine, and he's not pouring the wine. All he's doing is he's adding water to it to dilute it. And the Gemara says that the consensus seems to be that that too is going to make the wine like yain nesech, that it's going to be totally aser, even bahana'a. And the reason is because leich amrin lenazira, which is a svara that it's like creating a fence around the halacha of yain nesech. So now we get to another story on Daf Nun Tes Amud Aleph on the 6th line. Rabbi Chia bar Abba ikla legavla, chaza benos Yisrael demi abron me'ovdei kochavim shemolu v'lo tavlu. So Rabbi Chia comes to a town called Gavla, and he notices three things. The first thing that he notices is that Jewish girls were having relationships with non-Jewish men who had had a bris milah, but had never finished the process of conversion. And it's really unclear what was going on in this town. Apparently, these were men who were committing themselves to a lifestyle of Judaism, and had had a bris, but had never gone forward with a formal conversion in front of a beis din and with a mikveh. So girls were getting married, or getting pregnant at least from them. And then, Chaza Chamer Demazgo of the Kochavim V'Shasa Yisrael. Second thing he saw was that he saw that akum were diluting kosher wine and Jews were drinking it. And the third thing is Chaza Tormusa Deshalki Lahu of the Kochavim V'Achlu Yisrael. He saw that there was a vegetable called the tormus, which many times is translated as a turnip, or a kind of turnip, which cannot be eaten raw. It can only be eaten after thoroughly boiling it. And Gentiles would boil it, and Jews would eat it. And even though one could argue that all three of these practices were objectionable, Rabbi Chia at the time did not say anything. Asa lakami de Rabbi Yochanan, but when he comes back to Rabbi Yochanan and relates to him what he witnessed, Amar lei tzei v'hachriz al b'neiim shehin mamzerim v'al yeno mishum yain nesech v'al turmusan mishum bishuli ovdei kochavim mishum she'enon b'nei Torah. So Rabbi Yochanan said, you made a big mistake by keeping quiet. I want you to go back and make a public announcement in that town. Number one, all children that are born from those relationships are mamzerim. Number two, all of the wine is yain nesech. And number three, the boiled turnips are completely asur because of bishul akum. But I qualify that statement saying that it's not technically bishul akum, but rather we're being machmir because these people are not learned. And because they're not learned, if we were to permit them to eat the turnip, which is technically the halacha, they would come and be liberal where there's real cases of bishul akum. And we'll explain this in just a second. So now we're going to go through all three cases. Al b'neim shehin mamzerim. Now, I want you to declare that all of their children are mamzerim. That seems to be harsh. I mean, after all, the mother's Jewish, right? So Rabbi Yochanan l'taimei da'amar Rabbi Yochanan la'olam eino ger ad sheyimol v'yitbol v'keven v'lo tavil ove kochavim hu. So Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion that number one, even though this akum male may have had a bris, he's not a full-fledged Jew until he goes before a beis din and goes to mikveh. So his status is not halfway. There's no such thing as a halfway ger. You're either a ger tzedek or you're still a goy. And these gentlemen are definitely goyim. And va'amar Rabba bar Barchana amar Rabbi Yochanan, ove kochavim ve'eved halba bas Yisrael havlad mamzer. It was also quoted in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that if an eved or an oved kochavim has a relationship with a Jewish woman, the product of that union is a mamzer. Now, we don't paskin that way. We paskin that the vlad is kosher, that the child is a completely 100% Jewish child. There is some slight... Right, any Isser Kares or Isser Misa produces, that's how the Chachamim paskin. But there's a machlokes. In the Gemara in Yavamis, Rabbi Akiva says that even from Isurei Lav. So therefore, there's different shittas among the Tanoim. Rabbi Yochanan paskins that even if she becomes pregnant from a non-Jew, the child is a mamzer. We don't paskin that way. We paskin the child is 100% Jewish. The only stigma that I'm aware of is that if it's a girl, she's not permitted to marry a Kohen. But other than that, the child is 100% Jewish. Now, the next thing is, Al Yena Mishum Yain Nesech. Why did Rabbi Yochanan feel we had to be machmir on the wine that was diluted by an akum? Mishum Leich Leich Amr Nazir Schor Schor Lekarmelo Sikrav. The same term that we used all day yesterday, which is tell the Nazir don't come close to the vineyard. Even though you're allowed to come close to a vineyard technically, you just can't consume the grapes. It's a safeguard to protect you from succumbing to error. And finally, V'al Turmusan Mishum Bishulei Avekochavim Lifi She'inon B'nei Torah. And finally, declare that their boiled turnips are not permitted because they're not learned people. So the Gemara now says, Taima De'inon B'nei Torah, Ha-B'nei Torah Shari. So is that to suggest that technically it's not prohibited because of Bishul Akum? So the Gemara says, I have a problem with that because V'ha'amar Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak Amar Rav Kol Shenechel Kamo Shu Chai Ein Bo Mishum Bishuli of the Kochavim. That it was quoted in the name of Rav that any vegetable or any food item that cannot be eaten in its raw state is subject to the prohibition of Bishul Akum once it's cooked. Now a turnip certainly cannot be eaten raw. So the question is, why shouldn't it not just as a chumrah be asur because of Bishul Akum, but officially asur because of Bishul Akum? Right? Why did he give the reason that they're not learned? Even if they were learned, it would be asur because of Bishul Akum. So the Gemara answers, Rabbi Yochanan kihach lishna svirale, the Amar of Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak Amar Rav, kol sheina ola l'shulchan malachim, l'shulchan shel malachim, l'lafis bo zapas, ein bo mishum bishulei of the kochavim. Because there's another statement that is attributed to Rav, it's a different version, where Rav says the criterion is not whether it can be eaten raw or not, the criterion is whether it is something that is important enough of a food that it would be served at a king's table as a side dish. And since turnips is a poor man's food and it's not a kingly kind of food that you'd find at a king's table, they're not going to serve it at the White House, right? And so therefore, it's not considered to be subject to Bishul Akum technically. And therefore, Taima De'inon B'nei Torah, Ha-B'nei Torah Shari. And that's the reason why he said that were it not for the fact that they're not learned, we would have permitted it. Go ahead.
Is this shita limiting Rab only to the second criterion on Bishul Akum, or he also holds the fact that it's raw?
Well, both statements are independent of each other. In other words, one opinion says that the sole criterion is that it cannot be eaten raw, and the other one is that the sole criterion is that it's not olel shulchan malachim. But if we take a look at Tosfos here, Rabbeinu Tam paskins that we take both opinions. No, you have to have both in order for it to be asur mishum bishul akum.
Right. Yeah, to be asur.
Right.
Yeah.
Or conversely, either one is an escape. Well, if either one is not present, then it's not prohibited because of bishul akum. So therefore, in order for something to be prohibited because of bishul akum, it has to be both something that cannot be eaten raw, and it has to be oila al shulchan malachim. It has to be worthy for a king's table. So, there's a lot of discussion among the poskim as to which foods qualify. Like, for example, an egg. What would you say? Is an egg? Egg is not something that people eat raw, right?
It could be.
Rocky.
But is it, except for Rocky, but is it ola al shulchan malachim?
I don't know.
So the Shulchan Aruch says yes, it is ola al shulchan malachim, and therefore it's asur mishum bishul akum, which is a very important law, because people think if I'm traveling, what could be so bad? I'll buy a dozen eggs and I'll ask the hotel to cook them for me, or I'll go to at Best Western, I'll go to the free buffet. And if they have hard-boiled eggs, what could be the problem?
Can't eat hard-boiled eggs.
No, it's bishul akum. Mamish bishul akum.
But besides that, they're concerned where they clean their pots, maybe.
So even if you can be makel using a svara that it's eno ben yomo, and But still, it's the problem of bishul akum to have a hard-boiled egg.
It's a bit of unusual reasoning that we would be machmir with non-educated people. Usually we tend to give them patera because they don't know, if we can.
It's a much longer discussion, but the general trend in the Gemara is that if we suspect that our leniency will lead to abuse in the primary halacha, then we're more machmir with unlearned people. Yeah. Sometimes we're more lenient in situations where our assessment is that by being machmir, this person may reject the law entirely. Then that's another consideration. Okay? Okay, so now let's go on. Ba'u minei merav kahana. Obe kochav mahu sheyolich anavim legas. A new question. We know that a Gentile cannot be involved in the manufacturing of wine. What about asking a Gentile to place the grapes into the press? Just bring them to the press and put them in the press and don't do anything else. Would that be permitted? So Amr Lahu Asr Mishum Lech Lech Amr Nazir Schor Schor Lekamr Lo Sikrav. And Rav Kahana told them that too we're going to Asr, because it's the same realm of telling a Nazir, don't come close to the vineyard. We're telling a Gentile, don't come close to the press. Eisvei Rav Yemer LaRav Kahana, Obe Kochavim Shehebi Anovim Lagas, Bisalin Uve Dudurin, Afal Pi Shahayain Mezalef Alein Mutar. So, but what about this brisa? The brisa says that if a Gentile brings grapes to the press in baskets and in buckets, even when the grape juice is actually on the surface of the grapes already, it's still completely okay, and the wine is still kosher, as long as he didn't press the wine. So, Amar Lahu, Hevi Kamart, Ana Lechatchila Kamina. He says, because that's talking about B'di'evet. B'di'evet, if he does it, B'di'evet, it's still kosher. But you're asking me a question of Lechatchila, should we permit it? And the answer is no. It's interesting. If you ever go to the West Coast on vacation, you must go to the winery in Oxnard, the Herzog Winery, because there you get a real education in the manufacture of kosher wine. They give you a tour and they show you that there's a floor that's behind glass where they actually do the wine pressing. And there they only allow Jews on the floor. Even though there are Gentiles working in other components, as a matter of fact, the chief taster to decide what blends of wine are going to be featured that season is a Gentile for Herzog. So it's a bit of a dilemma how they get around it.
Well, he doesn't draw it. He doesn't draw it out. Someone else draws it out for him.
Right. So someone else presses the grapes, and he tastes the different types of grapes to determine what would make the best blend. And then, based on his recommendation, they manufacture the wine. Oxnard is just north of L.A. Yeah, it's just a short drive, like a 40-minute drive north of Los Angeles. But it's definitely worth your time. They have a fantastic restaurant also. But anyway, let us go on. So, Hahu Esroga. Now, this next story is actually quite revealing. It really teaches us some of the essence of the halacha of a goy's contact with wine. Remember, what we're concerned about is that he's going to do something called shichshuch, which is he's going to swirl or move his hand to move the wine, and in the course of doing that, he's going to do some kind of incantation towards his avodah zarah. So, and that's the reason why when he touches it, we suspect he has done that, and we aser all the wine. So, hahu esroga denafal lechavisa dechamra, idri obe kochavim v'shakle. So there was once an open barrel of wine, kosher wine, and someone dropped accidentally an esrog into the barrel. And a well-intentioned akum said, you know what, that could spoil the wine, the acidity, the tartness, who knows. So he places his hand in to the barrel to pull out the esrog before it sinks. So he jumps forward. So Amar Lahu Ravashi Naktua liyadi ki hechi de lo lishach sheichbei ubartsuha ad shaifa. So Ravashi says, quick, grab his hand. so that he can't move it and put when he's pulling out the esrog. And before he has a chance to pull out the esrog and move his hand, tilt the barrel to one side so that the contents will be poured out to some other container. And only after the level of liquid has gone down below his hand can you release his hand and allow him to pull out the esrog. Now, why is that? So Tosfos clarifies it a little bit further. He says, we assume that as he's putting his hand in, since his focus is exclusively on catching the esrog, he's not thinking about avodah zarah. The concern is on the way out. As he's pulling the esrog out, maybe he'll have some kind of avodah zarah intention and deliberately swirl the wine with that intention. And therefore, catch his hand and tilt it. It's not clear from Tosfos or the Gemara whether, or I should say, it's not clear from the Gemara whether what Rav Ashi was advocating is that when you do this, the wine will now be completely mutter, or is it only now not usur bahana, but it's still prohibited for drinking? So that's something that the Rishonim deliberate over. But the point is that you learn a lot about what the concerns of shichshuch are. As long as you can assure that even when he's touching it, he's not able to move the fingers or his hands, make any hand motions, then you can be makel to some degree. Not necessarily to completely permit the wine, but at least to permit the wine bahana.
It seems in these days, a lot of people put their hands in wine. They didn't have the same...
I got news for you. They didn't have forks and knives back then either. In other words, a lot of food was eaten with people's hands. It's not that we...
Really more, where they're dipping their fingers.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of unsanitary conditions. We always, you read some of these stories and you say, Baruch Hashem, I live in a more modern time. It's just... And, it's not surprising people died of early age, diseases, intestinal problems, all of these things, because bacteria was rampant, What? Yeah, but there you never get sick, right? Amar Rav Ashi, Hai oivi kochavim denasche lechamer di Yisrael bekavana, afal gav de lizvune lo bekochavim achrina asur shoyle lemishkal damei me'ahu ave kochavim. Huge chiddush now. Even though when a goy deliberately incants with his hand, with a Jew's wine, he renders that wine asur bahana, so that a Jew cannot sell it, cannot benefit from it, but I can still sue that Gentile in a Beis Din, and the Beis Din will award me the damages of my loss. In other words, I can still extract payment from that Gentile who spoiled my wine. Even though I can't benefit from it, but I can still have him pay for the cost of my loss. My taima mikla kalye, because it's no different if a Gentile burns down my property. I can't use the property anymore, but I can at least collect damages, restitution. He's not paying me for the wine. He's paying me for the damage that he caused me. And that I have a right to collect from him. Now, Amar Rav Ashi mina aminallah. So Rav Ashi says, let me prove this to you from the following brisa. Tanya, obi kolchavim shenasach yeno shel Yisrael, shelo bifnei avodas kolchavim aser. That the Chachamim's position is that if an akum either pours a libation or does some kind of shichshuch, the swirling motion with the wine, even if it's not in front of an idolatry, he has contaminated the wine and made it totally usur. But v'Rebbi Yehuda ben Bava v'Rebbi Yehuda ben Beseira matir mishum shnei dvarim. These two Tanoim, whose first name is Rebbi Yehuda, both permit it when it's not in front of the actual deity for the following two reasons. One reason is because they hold that wine is not libated unless it's in front of avodah zarah. And since there's no actual avodah zarah here, it's not a problem. Now, clearly, we don't hold like that. The whole parak is holding that we suspect any Gentile not in front of a deity is going to cause a libation. But the second argument is what we want to focus on, is that these two Tanoim say, what right, the Jew can say, what right do you have to contaminate my wine and take it away from me? In other words, what right do you have to do that? It's my property. So that argument, even though we don't paskin like these Tanoim, we retain the validity of that argument. What right do you have to cause me loss like that and I just have to walk away from it and call it, just write it off as a loss. That's not right. Well, it is a hezek sheino nicker, so that's an interesting question that, in Jewish law, it may not be collectible. But when it comes to interaction with Gentiles, what Gershon is arguing is that normally we say that when I contaminate something but there's no physical change, if a Jew were to do that, I wouldn't be able to collect from him. But apparently, and it's an excellent point, apparently when it comes to a Gentile damage, we do say even a hezek sheino nicker I have a right to collect from him. Now, hahi chavisa de chamra di ishtaka lebarza, asa oved kochavim idri anach yode iluya. Next story, there was a barrel of wine that had a spigot attached to it, and the spigot broke off, or it fell off. And all of a sudden, the wine starts spritzing out of this small little hole that where the spigot previously was. So a well-intentioned akum jumps forward, and he sticks his finger in the hole to plug it up, to stop the leakage of wine. So Amar Rav Papa, Kol de lahadi barza chamra asir, v'idach shari. So Rav Papa gives a huge heter. And he says, granted, whatever the guy touched, we're going to say is asir bishatia. You're not allowed to drink it. We're not going to say it's asir bahana because you can't do shichshuch in such a small hole, right? So there's no real incanting. It's only because he's touching it. But only the wine that's immediately surrounding the hole is asir, but the rest of the barrel is fine. So just have him pull out his finger, let some of the wine run off, and then seal the barrel, and the rest of it is okay. V'ika da amri, but others learned that Rav Papa was not so lenient, that Amar Rav Papa, da'ada bar zachamra asr v'idach shari, that all the wine that is above the hole in the barrel is asr, and only the wine that's below the hole, the line of the hole, is going to be mutter. And the second reason's argument is that any wine that's above the hole now is controlling the flow of that wine. So it's almost as if there's some kind of energy connection to all of the wine that's above the hole. By his plugging the hole, he stopped the flow of all of that wine that's above the hole, and therefore all of that wine is connected to his finger and therefore is usher.
I wonder if he can collect for damages in that circumstance because he was trying to save.
Yes, and that's a very good point. Here, since it wasn't done maliciously, it could be the guy would not be liable. If you notice, the language is that in the previous, it's Dinasche Lechamr di Yisrael Bekavana. The previous Gemara was talking about where he maliciously does it. He incants deliberately in order to fulfill his religious duty. And so that's the reason why I can take him to court. But I think your point is well taken, that it may be that's only when he does it deliberately, but here he's doing it very innocently. Now, Amar Rav Yemar Kitanai. So this issue, regardless of whether you subscribe to the first version of Rav Papa, where only the wine surrounding the hole is asr, or whether you subscribe to the second version of Rav Papa, where everything above the hole is asr, we're going to demonstrate that idea that we only asr a portion of the wine and we permit the other portion of the wine is a machlokes tanoi. Where do we see this? Chavis shenakva bein mipia bein mishuleha bein mitzideha v'nagabo tevul yom temeya. This brisa is talking about the laws of tumah, but we can easily extend that and make an analogy to the laws of touching of an akum. Here it's a person who's tameh, who touches the wine in a barrel. Again, he sticks his finger in order to plug the hole. But it depends. So according to the Tanna Kama, it makes no difference where the hole is. It could be on the top of the barrel, it could be on the bottom of the barrel, or it could be on the side of the barrel. In all cases, because he's touched the wine inside the barrel, all of the wine is aser. But Rabbi Yehuda Omer, mipio mishulea temeya mitzideha tehorin, mikano mikan. But Rabbi Yehuda says it depends. He says if he touches the wine from a hole that's in the bottom of the barrel, since gravity is pulling down all of the wine that's connected to his finger, so then all of the wine is aser. If he touches the wine from a hole on the top of the barrel, since all of the wine that's beneath the wine that he's touching is a foundation for that wine, all of the wine is aser. But if he touches the wine through a hole on the side of the barrel, so only the wine that's directly in front of his finger becomes tameh, but everything else is tohar on all sides. and therefore just let the tamei wine run off. And I guess because he's a tful yom, he's already gone to mikvah, and therefore there's more room to be lenient. Maybe it's only a rabbinic tumah. We're more lenient over here, and we allow the rest of the wine to be considered to be tahor. And this is the principle of where we show that only according to Rabbi Yehuda can we say that a portion is one way and the other portion is another way. That's all according to Rav Papa. We'll hold it here for today.